Hey everybody, Mah-Dry-Bread here. Hello and welcome to a video where I teach you how I make Pokemon challenges. This is something that I've been asked a lot, mostly because a lot of people have started doing Pokemon challenges and told me that they started because of me. So I thought I'd make a series where I show you exactly how I do each step of my own Pokemon challenges. This isn't necessarily the ultimate way to do any of this stuff, mind you. This is just me showing you my production flow, how I've learned how to do it after all of these years. I never thought that some random sideshow I would try doing would be the thing that blows up the biggest on my channel after almost a decade of a video a day, but I guess you just don't see this stuff coming sometimes. I think I made a tutorial video forever ago on how I do Let's Plays, which is kind of my main bread and butter thing, but you guys all want to see this, so let's do this. So let's say you just decide one day you really want to play Pokemon Gold with one Misdreavus. Well, that's what we're doing today. And if I'm pronouncing that wrong, forgive me, I'm going to Google to make sure I'm pronouncing that right before I do the video. Let's jump over to the main screen here. So you say that you want to do Pokemon Gold with one Misdreavus. So how do we actually go about doing that? You're going to need a few things. You're going to need a microphone, I guess. Although some people tell me that they use their phone for that, and that actually works out okay if you're on a budget. What you'll need is an emulator to play the game. You'll need a ROM, which is the game. You'll need the Universal Pokemon Randomizer, which is a free piece of software to modify a ROM so that you start with whatever Pokemon you want to start with. You're going to need some kind of text document so that you can, write your script as you go, like I always talk about. And you need OBS, which is the recording software I use. It's totally free, and it works great for stuff like this. It's also pretty low impact on the computer, so between the emulators being pretty low impact and the recording software being pretty low impact, this is actually fairly accessible to someone with a pretty weak computer. I'll have links in the description to most of the things that I use. I can't link you to ROMs, though, mostly because there's a lot of weird legal stuff about ROMs in a lot of countries, so you're going to have to go find that on your own, but I'm sure you can find that on your own. For emulators and all of that stuff, though, not only am I going to show you what I have, but I'm also going to show you the settings that I use, because a lot of the default settings in these programs and whatnot are not that good. So the first thing we want to do is create the ROM for the actual playthrough we're going to be using. This is super, super simple. We can see the Universal Pokemon Randomizer right here on screen. There'll be a link to the download page for this in the description. And all you have to do is first you click open a ROM. It'll bring up this little classic Windows menu, and you just locate the ROM. So for this case, we just find a Pokemon Gold ROM. All right, there we go. ROM information there, Pokemon Gold. We've loaded up. I literally just located the file. And there's a ton of things you can change here if you want to make some kind of cool randomizer, but literally all I want to do is start with Misdreavus. So I'm going to go to starters here. We're going to have custom. And what you replace here matters, obviously, because it depends on whatever you pick is going to be changing whatever your rival picks. So I want to replace Chikorita because I want to fight Cyndaquil because I think Cyndaquil will be the hardest. So I just need to find Misdreavus on this list. It'll only list things that are in this actual game, of course, but this scroll window is a little bit small and I'm not wearing my glasses, so I'll probably pass it. It doesn't... Oh, never mind, right there. So that's literally all I needed to change in mine, because there's a lot of things you can change if you want to, if you're making some kind of cool randomizer. I'm literally just doing a challenge video, so I'm just going to hit randomize/save. Then you pick where you want it to be, so give me a second to navigate. There we go, I just saved the Misdreavus thingy thing, and then there's a log here. I just say no, I have no interest in seeing the log of the changes. I know what changes I made, and then done, and there you go. It's just in whatever folder you told it to be. It will have made a version of the ROM where Chikorita on the starting Pokemon table, and only there, will be replaced with the Misdreavus, or whatever Pokemon you picked for your run. So we have the ROM now. Now, before we even boot the ROM, we have the script here. So what this is I copy and paste over whatever my previous script was. I delete all of the bulk of the script, basically, either in the very start, and then I go through and I start rewording the start to fit with this particular challenge. So, I have my section right up here where I like to talk about my previous run so that people know that I do lots of runs. And then I build up, today's the day that we figure out would I be able to beat Pokemon Gold with a team of one Misdreavus. Then I spend a paragraph talking a little bit about Mr. Fist and why I think it's going to be challenging. So, this is where you would go on Bulbapedia and do a little bit of research. And in my research, at first I thought this was going to be a very easy run, actually. But someone suggested I thought it sounded kind of cool. So I looked into it. The stats are okay, but as you can see from what I wrote here, the moves are terrible. So, legitimately, like I would say, I don't know what I can beat and what I can't beat. Like, I don't know going into this run if I'm going to be able to beat it. Sometimes stuff sneaks up on you. Here's where I do my whole script on screen thing. And like I actually say, yeah, I write this whole part before I've started. So this whole sentence here would be the one that's not the carryover sentence that I'm writing. This is my prediction. I think I can win the run with enough time, but I don't know if I can beat red because the type coverage is genuinely that bad. Explaining the rules, it's literally the same thing every single time, pretty much, except for I change the word of the Pokemon, of course. And then right off the bat, I explain how the Universal Pokemon Randomizer works. You'll see here, I name him blank, it says. That is because I usually don't even think of a nickname until the last moment. It actually slows me down a lot. I'm really bad at thinking of those. So I haven't even written that down yet. But you can see here, as I would play the game, is where I would write stuff. If I'm fighting Falconer here, I'd start writing about Falconer, but we'll worry about that when we start getting into it. This is just the setup episode. So I guess the last few things we need to set up now would be the emulator and the recording software. So here we have Visual Boy Advance. This is an old emulator from, I want to say like 2007 or something, but it's still probably the best working one out there. So if you're just going to go download this right now, it'll work okay out the gate, but it's got a few settings that are really dumb. I don't know why it has some of these default settings. So if you go to options, you want to go to frame skip. By default, this will be set to 2. You want to change that to 0. This is like how many frames it's just ambiently skipping. If it ever looks like your emulator is stuttering really bad and you're like, oh, my computer sucks more than I thought it did. No, just set it to 0 and it'll probably run as smooth as it did on your Game Boy. I don't know why that's 2 by default. Switch it to 0. Another one of those things, if you go to sound, by default, the sound is on 22 kilohertz. You want to switch that to 44. It sounds much nicer. And if you get a little bit of like a hissing noise in your audio of the game music and whatnot, then check off this low pass filter. That seems to get rid of that. Some games have that problem, some don't. If you need to remap your joypad or your controller, whatever you're using, whether it be your keyboard or whatever, you just go to joypad 1 and here you go. This is where you can map it. I'm mapping it to an SN30 Pro Plus. It's like a controller that's kind of based on kind of like an SNES controller, but it's a little bit PlayStation. It's really nice. I purchased this one on a recommendation from Bob Wolf of the Wolf Den, friend of mine. I used to assembly edit for him, actually. But he uses a lot of controllers. He let me know he really likes this one, and I'm really, really happy with this one since getting it. Not sponsored, by the way, just letting you know. It's a comfy controller if you're going to be doing a lot of these. Anyway. So that's all the setup there. Literally all we'd have to do is hit open and pick the game now. Pro tip when you have this open, by the way, you probably want to go to options, video, and then 4x size. This will keep the aspect ratio correct. It'll still be really small on your screen, but it won't be super stretched. But this just cleans it up a lot, having it this consistent aspect ratio. So now that we have the game open, I have it on mute right now just because I tend to play the game on mute. I'd go insane if the music was playing constantly. The first thing you want to do is go to options. You want to set the text speed to fast. Battle scenes off. Originally, I used to have battle scenes on when I started these runs, but I turned them off because it speeds up the game massively. And also because people are complaining about flashing lights when I was doing Gen 1, so I turned off battle scenes. And no one's complained since I got rid of it, so I guess people just like that. Also, if you're doing a solo run, do set battle style so that if you have HM Pokemon, it's not always wasting time by asking you if you want to switch between times you like knock out an opponent. So these are little things that just speed up the game a little bit without changing the difficulty at all. And then, you just new game and you get going. But I guess you'd wonder next, how do you record the game? Because how do you record? And also, I guess, when do you record? That's its own thing. When you record is everyone has a little bit of a different system for this. Some people record literally everything. I'm pretty sure Johnstone does this. I'm pretty sure that J Rose does this as well. I did this when I did my first run, God, almost a year ago now. When I did my Reddita run, I recorded everything because I thought, okay, people are going to find it hard to believe that I did this because at the time, not many Pokemon challenges really existed, not of this kind of like the solo Pokemon run. So I thought people aren't going to believe it, so I should record everything so that at the end I can upload an unlisted video of the entire playthrough just on like hyperspeed in editing, and you can watch that and you can figure out that yeah, it is legit. But it turns out almost no one watched that. No one really cares about that. So for the sake of your own production flow, it's probably a smarter idea if you just record major battles or you start recording if something's happening that like a random trainer you didn't see coming, you didn't see as brutal. Be willing to hit the record button often, but if after that thing happens, it's not interesting and worth writing down, just delete that footage. It's fine, but you don't need to record every little thing. It'll just slow down your editing process more than anything, and there's actually very little risk that you're going to miss anything too important, as long as you record every major battle. And anytime you want to write down something in your script of like, oh, I needed to grind here, or I needed to get this TM, or I needed whatever, record that. If you feel like it's worth writing down and you want to put in the video, then record it so that you have the visuals to show exactly what you're talking about. You can talk about it without showing visuals, but everybody has a different competency level when it comes to Pokemon. So by showing them exactly what you're talking about, it really helps everyone follow along. I guess it's time for the last part of the initial setup, which is actually recording it with OBS. Now, there's a lot of tutorials you can find online about every little setting you could do on OBS, and there's a lot of different, there's a lot of things that you could change depending on your setup. But for the most part, out of the gate, let's say you just downloaded it and you just installed it and everything, and you have only the vaguest of vague ideas on how to use this. Your default settings are probably fine. What I recommend is you just disable both microphone and desktop audio. You aren't going to need that audio for your video unless you really, really want it. You're probably going to be editing in music because it'll sound way better than cutting around with the audio all the time. And you're going to be recording your voiceover in post, of course. And so when you first boot up OBS, you're going to have scenes and sources. These are all going to be blank, and that's perfectly okay. Literally all you have to do, under sources, you see this little plus symbol here. You're going to click on that little plus. You're going to click on game capture. You don't even need to name it anything if you don't want to. For mode, you go to capture a specific window. And for window, you're going to click on Visual Boy Advance. That's literally it. You can turn off capture cursor if you want. I recommend it. And then you hit OK. I already have this set up right here. If I go down to VBA and unblind it, I guess, and then I click back on Visual Boy Advance, which is, you can see right over here. And if I give it 30 seconds to a minute, it should start to appear on the OBS on the left. There we go. I got it working. Sorry, I just had to get it to work, I just had to reboot the emulator. I forgot that anytime that your Windows asks for permission to use a file, like if you're installing something or whatever, or if you use admin privileges, then it will crash Visual Boy Advance. So, save often. But yeah, you can see it's displaying on this screen over here now. And if I ever want to record it, I just hit the start record button. And then if I want to stop recording, it'll say stop recording, and I just click that button. Of course, there's all kinds of nitty gritty you can get into in here in the settings if you want to. I use the advanced output setting and everything, and I record to different tracks and everything. You can see I use a variable bitrate, which is VBR for rate control. And you can see my bitrate and my max bitrate in here and everything. But these are all set up for when I'm recording other things as well, more graphically intensive things than Pokemon. You could easily be recording this with whatever the default is, which I think is like 2,000 kilobits per second, something like that. You could record a Game Boy Color game like that perfectly fine, and the footage will look fine. It's an old game for that was meant for a very, very small screen. You don't actually need to record it in the highest quality or anything, which is what's part of what's so great about these Pokemon challenges, is they're very, very accessible to people. So with everything that I just taught you just now, you should be able to go at least start playing your own Pokemon challenge. As for the script, as for the editing and the different stages of that and everything, That'll have to come later in this playlist that you can find at the top of the description, as well as probably a clickable link somewhere on screen since we're near the end. But this is an actively going series. I'm going to be reading your comments quite a bit. Please give me any questions you have. I would love to do Q&A episodes in this. If you have any suggestions for things you'd like to see me do episodes on in this playlist on teaching you this stuff, please let me know. But chances are the next video in this playlist is going to be probably little examples of me writing down a battle and everything. A couple here and there, I'll sprinkle those in. It might not be the most interesting thing, but mostly we're going to tune back in after I've finished this challenge, and I'm going to show you, like, what do you do after you beat a challenge? How do you edit it? How do you do the audio? How do you do the video? What are the different steps? And most importantly, what is my production flow? Because if you're, this is how I do Pokemon challenges. I'm simply showing you how I like to do it. And I get the feeling that my production flow is very different from a lot of other people's, because I've been editing video since I was 14. Yeah, I guess since I was 14 is when I had my first class in high school teaching me how to edit video. And I'm 27 years old now, so I've been editing video constantly for like 13 years. That's how you math. And I've been doing it for a career for 10 years now, so I just really want to share with you what I know. And one last little note, by the way, because I am teaching you how to do this stuff, do as many challenges as you want, man. Like, do challenges that I've done, even. If anything, you'll get into my suggested videos, and that might help your channel grow a little bit. I just want to see people try this if they think that they'll have fun with it. There's no harm in trying this and just seeing if it's your kind of thing. Don't feel like you're stepping on anybody's toes, because you're not. If anybody calls you a ripoff of anyone, don't listen to that. They're being negative. Don't worry about it. You're not ripping anybody off. You're trying something because you saw it, your favorite YouTubers were doing it, and you thought it looked like fun to try. There's no harm in that. Don't let the negativity get you down. If you end up trying to do a Pokemon challenge and you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. YouTube's about fun. And if you do end up liking it, by all means, keep doing it if you want to do it. Just don't let those negative comments that you will eventually get, don't let those keep you down. Stay encouraged, and as long as it's fun to do, keep doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't go worrying about needing to. Some people tried to message me and ask me for permission, like I own the concept or something. I don't. You don't need to ask me for permission. And don't worry, a lot of the other Pokemon challenge-y people that I've talked to personally, they've got no issue with it. So don't worry about it, and just try and have fun. I hope that this was educational for you in some way, but I'm just rambling. It's time to get back to some work, and it's time to get working on this run. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching, and until next time, have a nice day.